Hey everybody, welcome back to the Warbots Fits channel. Today we are going back to the Age of Fantasy to talk about the Chivalrous Kingdoms. Now, if you've been watching the channel for any amount of time, you'll know I love cavalry. I love big, heavy horse lance charges. I love knights in shining armor slamming into the enemy. And this army, that is what you get. And for the models this week, they are coming from Philip Sin's Miniatures. He has a set of Bretons that have every option that you need for the Chivalrous Kingdoms, and you're going to see everything pop up as we talk about them. So, first thing we like to talk about are the special rules. Big one for this army is Joust. This model's impact hits get AP 1. There are a lot of impact hits in this army because they are a heavy cavalry army. And there's nothing better than charging into an enemy where those impact hits normally don't get any AP. Now they're AP 1. They're going to be doing a whole lot more damage. Monster Hunter. This model's melee weapons get AP plus 2 against units where most models have toughness 3 or higher. This is going to be on one of the heavy cavalry units that are going to specialize in taking down large targets. Then everything else you see here is a hero upgrade, something you give to the unit you're with. War Duty lets you move a unit 6 more inches. Private Guard, if this model is part of a unit of X, they count as having quality 4. Some of your infantry just plain suck, and putting a character in there with Private Guard makes them a whole lot better. Battle Zeal, that is the Furious rule, or if they already had Furious, they get the double plus Furious, where you get it on a 5 or 6. Great Crusade gives the unit Strider, and Lady's Blessing, the model in its unit get regeneration, meaning that the lady and her damsels are keeping the men together. So let's go ahead and go down here to spells. Again, damage is damage. Let's look at the buffs. Wild Form, target friendly unit within 12 gets +1 to hit next time it fights in melee. That is great. Most of your heavy cavalry is going to be relatively good on the quality scale, but getting them down to a 2 or 3 to hit, that's always a plus. And only being a 1 power spell, that's going to be the easiest one to get off. Protection, target 2 friendly units within 12, they get +1 to defense rolls next time they take hits. Again, most of your heavy cav, they have pretty good protection. There are some lighter cav versions, and even with heavy armor, like a 3+ a bad roll can mean you lose a lot of knights. So putting this onto the unit increases survivability. And Magic Wind, target 2 friendly units within 12, they get +3 next time they advance, or +6 inches of movement next time they rush or charge. Most of your army is fast because most of your army is on horses. It's a 3 power spell, which means it's one of the hardest ones to get off. Not totally necessary, but if you do find yourself in a spot where you are just out of range for a charge, throwing out Magic Wind can be a game changer. So let's hop into the units. We're going to start off with the heroes, and our first one is a high champion. Quality 4, defense 4, 45 points. Welcome to Age of Fantasy, where everything starts off very, very cheap. Your best champion, 45 points. Comes with Fearless and Toughness 3. 3 attacks with a hand weapon at AP 1. You could put the Great Crusade on for the Strider, Private Guard for Men-at-Arms. And we'll just pop this up here to look at it. Men-at-Arms normally are a quality of 5 here. The high champion with Private Guard makes them quality 4. Army Standard Bearer, which is fear of 3, which means that they always count as dealing +3 wounds whenever they're in combat, meaning that you could take a combat that's close and guarantee a win with that fear of 3. And then War Duty, which is the extra movement spell. Now we have a bunch of weapons you can put on them. Heavy hand weapons, halberd, lances, great weapons, and spears. This is fantasy. Nothing here is too crazy. AP 3 is the highest it goes. We have lances here with heavy lance, and if you put your characters on horses, just go for lances. Why wouldn't you? And here we can upgrade them with a horse to give them fast, impact 1, and joust. Joust there is the one that gives those impact hits AP 1. Barded horse, defense +1, making them defense 3, fast, impact 1, and joust. Pegasus for heavy hoof for extra attacks. Fast, flying, impact 2, toughness +3, making him toughness 6, and joust. Or a hippogriff, defense 1, making him defense 3, 6 attacks with a rending claw, fast, fear of 1, flying, and toughness 6. You put on the hippogriff, he becomes toughness 9. He can no longer run around with the unit. He's too big. but you're on a hippogriff and you're just going to be running around flying, well, you're going to be flying around over top of the enemy, smashing into things. A flying character on its own that can just kind of go wherever it's needed in Age of Fantasy is a very valuable thing indeed. As far as putting it on units, again, these are the only options you're going to get. Private Guard for Men-at-Arms, you're going to want to put them in a Men-at-Arms squad, so when we get there, just remember we can pump them to Quality 4 if you want. War Duty for a little bit extra movement, and Great Crusade giving a unit Strider. High Champions, I feel, just need to be on horses and to go into your heavier cavalry squad. So really, the only options here, I would think, are going to be Great Crusade if you know there's going to be a lot of difficult terrain on the board you're trying to get through. But Fear of 3, I think, is the way to go. This is just insurance that whenever you plow into something with your cavalry unit, they are going to win that combat. And hopefully the enemy runs away, making you free to just continue on charging into the next unit on the next turn. Next hero is the Realm Defender, the lesser of the two heroes. 25 points. Cheap. Cheap is all hell. Wow, these guys are cheap. Quality 5, defense 5, so not the greatest. That's why it is 25 points. And they come with a hand weapon for 3 attacks. Here for the upgrades, we have War Duty, which is the extra activation, and that's the only thing that switches over from the High Champion. Other than that, this is the only spot where you can get a Caster, and Caster 2 is as high as you can get. There is no other option to get higher, so you're only going to be getting 2 points a turn. Magic Wind is a 3. You're just not going to be able to get that on turn number 1. So that's another reason why that one, I wouldn't worry about that spell too much. So the other option is Lady's Blessing, and that's the one where you give your unit regeneration. So for 55 points, let's just talk about this now, you could take any unit and give them regeneration, like Peasants, or Men-at-Arms, or Foot Knights, or Longbowmen, or Mounted Bowmen, pretty much anything. For 55 points, you're going to be able to give whatever you want regeneration. You can replace the hand weapon with all kinds of other weapons here. Again, dual hand weapons, great weapons, halberd, lance, or spear. And the only option you have for a mount is a horse to give them fast and impact 1. So most of the time what I'd say do with this character is to put Caster 2 on them and put them into a foot troop squad. Use them as like a little buffing hub. Or you do have the option for a horse. You can put them inside of one of your knight units to give off regeneration. Those would probably be the best way to use your Realm Defender. Let's go ahead and start looking at some units, and we're going to start off with what I think is the greatest chaff unit in the game, the Peasant Levy. 10 of them for 45 points. The reason why I think they're the best chaff unit in the game, less than 50 points, you get 10 bodies. They are only quality 6, defense 6. They only have 1 attack apiece in combat, but they can also throw stones for 1 attack at 12 inches. Again, you're only going to be hitting on 6s. But what the Peasant Levy does, for 45 points, this gives you a minimum of a 5 wound buffer on top of an objective. What I mean by a 5 wound buffer, like say if someone shoots you, you're not going to take a morale test until you lose at least 5 of them. If someone charges you, you're not going to run away until they lose at least 5 of them. So what the Peasant Levy does is it guards your objectives from like little piddly units, like Demon Furies or any of the wolves that we've seen. Peasant Levy parked on top of an objective are going to keep it in your hands, or at least keep it contested from those 5 model units, because those 5 model units, they're not going to have the throughput to kill 10 of these in one round. Even though the defense 6 sucks, they're going to lose a lot if they got to roll armor saves against things. But most of those units that are little piddly units are going to have a quality of 5, maybe a 4. There's only going to be 5 of them. They might have 1 or 2 attacks. They're just not going to have that guaranteed throughput to take out 5 of those Peasant Levy. Then let's say something does stand on the objective and just say, I'm going to contest it from you. Well, the Peasant Levy then just throw stones at it. They don't have to get into combat to try to knock something off the objective. They can just throw stones at things, maybe knock them down to half strength. You only got to kill 3 things. And if you're rolling 10 dice, 3 6s, while not mathematically guaranteed, it's a possibility. Either way, them just standing there for 45 points, I think, is the best insurance in the game. Just 10 bodies, 45 points. I think that's just great for them. All right, moving on. Next unit is the Men-at-Arms. 10 of them for 65 points. Again, we're still really cheap And these are quality 5, defense 5, with 1 attack apiece with hand weapons. You can switch out the hand weapons for halberds or spear, and the spear gives you counter. And then you can do the command upgrade of the sergeant, musician, or banner. Again, really good objective insurance. Your knights should be on the other side of the board, running things over with their lances and hooves. If you're keeping something at home, peasants, or men-at-arms, if you got an extra 20 points to throw at it, great investment. And then, like we were talking about earlier, with the men-at-arms, you do the High Champion, Private Guard, 135 points. You get the High Champion with whatever weapon he has, the men-at-arms, stack the men-at-arms, so you got 20 dudes, quality 4. I mean, if you're spending 70 points, you might as well get the most value out of those points as possible. 200 points, 20 dudes, quality 4, defense 5. And you can do the spears to give them counterattack. That way, if anything charges you, you attack first. 200 points for this brick. Again, really cheap. They're not gonna be an offensive power. These, again, defensive power. Next unit is the Foot Knights. 5 of them for 65 points, quality 4, defense 4, and they are fearless. Now we're getting into more offense-focused troops. Come with 5 heavy hand weapons, 1 attack apiece at AP 4. You can swap that out for a great weapon for 1 attack at AP 3, and you can do the sergeant, musician, and the banner. So this is one of those cases where a high champion get put with the unit. Again, you're going to put them in there, combine the unit, make it big enough to matter. High champion with Great Crusade to give them all striders so they ignore difficult terrain. Or Realm Defender with Caster 2, going for Magic Wind to get them to go faster to keep up with your knights. And again, you're not going to be able to pull it off turn 1, but on turn 2, that gives you an 18-inch threat range for a charge if the Magic Wind goes off. Or you could just do Lady's Blessing. Running around with defense 4 with regeneration, they're going to be kind of hard to shift. You can stick with the heavy hand weapons, or just for the extra 30 points for the 10 guys, go for the AP 3. Make them mean. And here, everybody with regeneration, we're looking at 215 points. Again, pretty cheap as far as the foot unit go. Go for 225, give them the Magic Wind with the heavy great weapons, 18-inch charge on turn number 2. Possible that could reach out and do some surprising damage. Next unit is the last foot unit for the army. Well, kind of. We'll talk about that when we get there. We have longbowmen, 5 of them, 65 points, quality 5, defense 5. They all have 1 attack apiece in close combat and a 30-inch range longbow shot. Now they have the command upgrade down here, but they do have 2 interesting upgrades here. Fire Brazier, which gives them fire arrows, which means they're AP 1, and you can also give them defensive stakes, which gives them counter in melee. Now they are only quality 5, so don't expect your longbowmen to do much damage. Again, this is more of a objective insurance unit. If you wanted to go for the straight insurance, give them the defensive stakes, combine the unit 160 points, you have 10 shots reaching out to 30 inches, or if anything charges into you, you attack first in combat. If you got the points left over, the Fire Brazier for AP 1, that's a good option for them, just if you got points left over. Don't expect many of those longbowmen to hit, but when they do, AP +1, it kind of makes it worth something. Now, we're into the mounted units, and we're going to start off with the cheapest one, which is the mounted bowmen. 65 points for 5 of them, which is funny, is the same cost of the longbowmen on foot. So let's talk a little bit about the way OPR does its points. Everything in OPR is in multiples of 5, and they round it. So in this case, longbowmen probably in the algorithm came out to like 63 points. So they rounded up to 65. Adding fast onto the unit because its quality is not great, defense is not great, bows not great with quality 5. Putting fast on there probably did not add much, so probably put it at like 67 points. So they rounded it towards the closest multiple of 5, bringing it back down to 65. In brass tacks on the board terms, there is absolutely no reason to take a longbowman squad over a mounted bowman squad. Longbows, they do have 6-inch more range, 24-inch range on the mounted bowman, but again, fast versus not fast. So with that out of the way, let's just move on. Again, they have the fast rule. 24-inch range, 1 shot, 1 attack, close combat. You can replace all the hand weapons with lances for 5 points to make them kind of a last-ditch lance unit. If you really just wanted to take cheap horses, they don't have an impact rule because, I mean, they're bowmen. Their horses are probably just supposed to be smaller. Again, if you have the 5 points, maybe. I wouldn't do that. Leave these guys skulk around the side, blasting things with bows. Maybe last ditch, run onto an objective in the enemy's deployment zone, contest it or take it if they moved off of it. That's pretty much the only thing you really want to do with these. Again, quality 5, don't expect the bows to do much. Now we move into the Knights proper. First unit is the Errant Knights. 5 of them for 90 points. Quality 5, defense 5, fast, impact 1, joust, and scout. So scout means before the beginning of the game, before turn 1, they get to move 12 inches, ignoring all terrain. So pretty much they start up to the middle point of the board. And with their fast rule, meaning they have plus 4 inches whenever they charge, instead of the 12-inch charge, it's a 16-inch charge. With this scout rule, I wouldn't take the whole 12. I would put them at like 10 or 11. That means that the enemy won't be able to charge right out at you on turn 1. You're going to have the quote-unquote initiative on what units get to charge what. You're going to want to put these about 13, 14 inches away from the enemy just so they get to charge first. That's what I'm trying to say. Again, Florida man, redneck, hard to talk. I know speak good words. You know what I'm talking about. They have lances with 1 attack apiece and lance. So the lance, we're going to put it right here. Lance means you get AP plus 2 when charging. That's what it means now. I've seen some previews of the next update, and lance will change. I'm not sure when it'll change. I record these things 1 week beforehand, so probably, knowing my luck, it's changed already. The new lance rule that I saw, instead of getting AP plus 2, they get AP plus 1 with plus 1 to hit. So if it has come out, cool, I know about it. We're still going to use this rule when we play the game today with AP plus 2, but I know that the rule is going to change, and by the time you watch this, it may have already. And then the only options you get are the Sergeant, Musician, or Banner. And I haven't talked about them yet. Sergeant means 1 model in the unit gets plus 1 to hit. So it'll be 1 person is hitting at quality 5. Musician means the units get plus 1 inch to move whenever they take an action. So Scout combined with a Musician means that you are going to have a 17-inch charge on turn number 1, so you can put yourself 15 inches away from the enemy just to make sure they don't charge you first. And then Banner is you get plus 1 to morale test rolls, so whenever you roll a morale test, you're at quality plus 1 for that, so you would have a quality 4 on this unit in particular. So how I would use this unit, these are your cheapest actual knights. Combine the unit, take 3 of them, 540 points gives you 30 knights that are going to be in combat on turn number 1. On turn number 1, they are starting at the midway point or just behind the midway point, and they're going to slam into the enemy on turn 1. These are shock and awe. With impact and joust, they're just going to be there to throw damage on the enemy on turn number 1, to either break through smaller units or to soften them up for your larger units to come in behind them. So let's move on to some of those larger units. Next unit is the Realm Knights. 110 points. Quality 4, defense 4. You get 5 of them in the squad. Fast, fearless, furious, impact 1, and joust. So fearless, I haven't talked about it yet. Whenever this unit fails a morale test, you get a 4+, pretty much do-over. If you roll 4+ after you fail a morale test, it counts as passed. Furious means that you get exploding 6s whenever you charge. So with quality 4, that means that mathematically 1/3 of your hits is going to give you an extra hit, so it's going to do some more damage there. Maybe you can spike those dice, get a whole bunch of hits. I always love it when that happens. They have lances, and then the only upgrades are the command upgrades. This is going to be your second line running in after your Errant Knights. Errant Knights seem to be the young kids who want to prove themselves. Realm Knights are the knights that have proven themselves. They don't need to run in there and do heroics. They're just going to go and do their job and run the enemy down. Next unit is the Grail Knights. 5 of them for 120 points. Quality 4, defense 3. Fast, fearless, impact 1, and joust. They come with heavy lances, so their lances start with AP 1. Lance rule currently makes this AP 3 when they charge, and the only options are Sergeant, Musician, and Banner. So all the knights pretty much do what they say on the tin. They just get progressively better as we go along. Defense 3, these are going to be able to go into heavier targets and be able to take an attack back from them. But ideally, you slamming in there with your impact joust hits and your heavy lances, there's not going to be much left for them to attack back with. Next unit of knights are the Questing Knights. 5 of them for 125 points. Quality 4, defense 4, fast, fearless, impact 1, joust, and monster hunter. This is the one wherever they fight something that's toughness 3 or higher, they get AP plus 2. They come with great weapons. 1 attack with AP 2 already, so that means whenever they fight something that's tough, they are AP 4. These are knights that you want to point at the enemy's biggest, toughest thing, and they are going to pull it down. So Monster Hunter only works on their melee weapons, so the impact does not get +2 AP, so it's just going to be AP1 impacts and AP2, or in this case, AP4, great weapons. And their only options are the Sergeant, Musician, and Banner. So all the knights, again, come as they are. The last knight unit is the Pegasus Knights. 3 of them for 200 points. Quality 4, Defense 4. Fast, Fearless, Flying, Impact 2, Joust, and Toughness 3. So flying means they just ignore everything when they move. So they can move over top of the enemy, they can fly over impassable terrain, they don't matter. As long as whenever they move, wherever they're going to stop, they can legally sit there, they can do it. They have lances with 1 attack with lance, and they also have 1 attack apiece at AP1 with their heavy hooves. That coupled with their Impact 2, which is AP1 because they have the Joust rule. I tend to use these kind of like the firemen of the army because of the mobility that flying and fast gives you. They're going to be able to put attacks where attacks are needed, wherever things are starting to kind of fall apart in your army. You can rush the Pegasus Knights over to take care of whatever it was that's giving you trouble. And the only options they have, again, are the Sergeant, Musician, and Banner. So back to stuff on foot. This one is rather interesting. We have the Grail Relic. 90 points, quality 5, defense 5, battle zeal. Once per activation, you pick 2 friendly units within 6. They get furious, or their furious goes to a 5+. Fear 1, furious on its own, and toughness 6. And then it has 6 attacks apiece with rending from its pilgrim crew. With battle zeal, pretty much what you're going to be doing is just putting a token on one of the units. So you can start some of your knight units next to the Grail Relic, and when the Grail Relic activates, it can put those tokens on stuff. So you can put some Realm Knights next to it. They already come with Furious. The Grail Relic with Battle Zeal will give them the extra double plus Furious, making it on a 5+, and then they're going to have that token on them until they use it when they charge. So it can be used for like a turn 1 boosting of 2 of your knight units before they run out to go punch stuff in the mouth. And then finally, last unit is the Chivalrous Artillery for 115 points. Quality 5, defense 5, entrenched, immobile, and toughness 3. Has 3 attacks in close combat from its crew, and has 1 attack with AP2, blast 6, and indirect at 36 inches from its stone thrower. Or you can place a stone thrower with a boulder thrower for 1 attack, AP3, deadly 6, and indirect for really big targets. So let's just get this out of the way right now. Quality 5, so you are probably not going to hit anything the entire game, because both of these options are only 1 shot apiece. But in case you do want to take it, Stone Thrower with Blast 6 going to be for large squads of things, or Boulder Thrower with Deadly 6 is going to be shooting at like giants or characters on monsters, things along that line. Just put it on the board, hide it behind something. Use your range to your advantage, and just don't be discouraged when you never roll a 5+. So that's enough blabbing from me. Let's get out to the garage and have ourselves a game. Welcome out to the garage, everybody. This is the first time I've ever had to zoom the camera this far out to kind of get everybody in frame. This is the Chivalrous Kingdom army we are going to be bringing today. Again, all of these models were designed by Philip Sins Miniatures. So let's go ahead and run through the list. I'll start at the top and just list them off as they go through. We have a Realm Defender, who is a Caster 2, hooked onto a unit of 10 Peasant Levy. Another Realm Defender, who is Caster 2, hooked onto 10 Peasant Levy. And then 10 more Peasant Levy for 3 squads of 10. All the way in the back, we have 1, 2, 3 squads of Errant Knights. We have 10 Grail Knights, with a High Champion joined to the Grail Knights. He's carrying the Battle Standard Bearer for a fear of 3. We have 2 squads of Questing Knights. And then we have a High Champion on a Pegasus, again with the Army Standard Bearer for fear of 3, hooked into 3 Pegasus Knights. Now the footprint for this army is huge. We have had more armies on the field that had more models, but just the footprint of this makes it feel massive. So let's go ahead and check out who they're fighting against today. On this side of the board, we have the Beastmen, who are the last Age of Fantasy army to get focused on. Let's go ahead and go through the army as it is written one more time for you. We have a Brute Boss on Zone. We have a Beast Lord on Chariot. We then have a Hunt Master with 20 Hunters. They have the Bestial Ambush rule. we have a Beast Lord hooked into 20 warriors with the Bestial Hatred, giving this unit Furious, which it already had, so they're going to get the Furious on a 5-up. We have 3 Kemba Brutes with the great weapons, 3 squads of 5 ranged raiders up there, 3 Crazed Boars, 2 light chariots, and 1 Brute Giant. Now let's check out the board. And here is the board, and as you can see, just the footprint size of that army is the reason why there is not much terrain on the board. We have a couple difficult terrain patches, a couple of hills, and then we have 4 objectives, 1, 2, 3, 4, sitting underneath the armies there. We're going to go ahead and deploy the armies and then get back to you. So the Chivalrous Kingdoms deploying on their side of the board, you can see they pretty much had to develop a balanced approach. This is just deployment, so all of the scouting units have not left the deployment zone yet. Then the Beastmen army, just feeling so much smaller, has deployed most of their heavy stuff in the middle, getting ready for a charge. They have their raiders hiding up on that hill, the chariots, warrior blob in the middle, giants, brutes, and then the crazed boars over on the side with the block of 20 hunters in ambush. So I am all alone today. We're going to have a whole lot more fades, be a little bit more technical with things as we go along, but we're going to see who goes first. Chivalrous Kingdom get a 1, Beastmen get a 4. So Beastmen are going to go first, but we're going to move the scouting units before. So this is the Chivalrous Kingdoms before scouting, and this is the way it looks afterwards. The only option seems to charge or be charged. The Beast Lord on the heavy chariots, it is going to go ahead and charge into those knights. So the first thing to do for that chariot is to figure out what happens with the crazed rule. That is a 5, meaning his attacks get +1 AP. We're going to start off with a heavy great weapon. He has Bestial Hatred, so these are Furious, hitting on a 3. We got 2 hits. Crazed makes that AP 4, doesn't really matter much, saved on a 6. There's 1 knight down. Heavy Tusks, 2 attacks, hitting on a 3, 2 hits. AP 2, 2 fails there, and I completely forgot Impact. Let's do that now. 4 Impact hits on a 2. 4 hits, 4 regular armor saves. And for the errants, that'll be 5-up. They lose 4, so that's 7 of the knights down already. Crash! Bringing them down to that. Now those 3 knights are going to fight back. They only have 1 attack apiece with their lances, and they're going to hit on a 5. Absolutely nothing. So the knights obviously lost combat. It's time for a morale check for them on a 5. They're going to hang. Even after that devastating hit, unable to pull it off. So the chariot just has to back up 1 inch. First activation for the Chivalrous Kingdoms, we are going to put that unit of errant knights into this unit of brutes, like that. The 10 errant knights charging in, they all get their impact hits, so 10 attacks, hitting on a 2. We got 8 hits, and with their impact hits having AP 1, the brutes are going to save on a 4. So they fail 3. The rest of the knights attacks with their lances, hitting on a 5. 3 hits. And with the lance rule at AP 2, they're going to be saving on a 5. They fail 2 more, meaning they lost 5 total. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Time for them to fight back. Using their brute charge pierce rule on a 6, they get a hit. Nope. 2 attacks apiece at AP 4, hitting on a 3. We got 4 hits. They are Furious, but because they didn't charge, it doesn't count for this. And the knight saving on a 6. 1 save, 3 knights go down. So the score of 3 to 5, the brutes are going to need to take a morale test on a 3. And they pass. So the knights lose 3 and have to back up 1 inch. On to the next fight. Next Beastmen unit to activate will be the Brute Boss, charging into that squad of errant knights. The Brute Boss uses its heavy pierced attack, and it does nothing, as usual. 6 attacks, hitting on the 3. He is Furious, so all of those 6s equals more hits. So we got the 1, 2, 3, 4, that many hits, and then the knights save on a 6. Ooh, 8 of them go down, which is going to be enough to just wipe the whole squad. Now you see them, now you don't. Time to move some other stuff around. The Pegasus are going to move to there. This Beastmen light chariot here in the corner is going to move himself out as a screen for everything there in the middle. The unit of questing knights there behind the peasants, they are going to move forward to there. That second light chariot is just out of charge range over there, but it is going to move on to that objective like that. The last unit of errant knights in the middle, they are going to charge into that light chariot. So they have 10 impact hits, hitting on a 2. For 9 hits, with AP1, the chariot's going to be saving on a 5. For 7 wounds, and that is going to be enough because it is only toughness 6. So the chariot is destroyed, and the knights get a 3-inch free movement after that, pulling themselves backwards to reform. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move everything else because nothing seems to be in charge range, and at the end, we're going to take some shots with some hand bows. So this is the way the board has ended up after all of the movement. We got the giant moving forward, a big old pile up of horses there, pile up of horses there. The big brick of warriors is moved forward, and now we got some attacks with ranged stuff. First thing we're going to do is we're going to have the peasants throw some rocks at these crazed boars. They're all within 12 inches, so let's all throw some rocks. 10 shots hitting on a 6. Well, I got 2. I wasn't even expecting that. Crazed boars save on a 5. Take 1 wound. Thud. Those raiders that moved up in the middle on top of that objective, they are going to fire at those errant knights. 5 shots, hitting on a 5. We got 2 hits, and saving on a 5. They're going to take down one of the knights. Pew! And then last ranged attack, the raiders up on top of the mountain are going to fire at those errant knights on that objective. 5 shots on a 5. And they got nothing. So at the end of turn number 1, the errant knights did not seem to accomplish much with their shock assaults. The Beastmen were able to only give them targets that were very high defense units. But looking at the board, it is a solid line of horse still headed towards the Beastmen. Moving into turn 2, it is time for the Beastmen ambushers to show up. So things are just going to get interesting. The Beastmen ambushers have decided to show up behind the questing knights, and the reason why is that this flank over here is very light when it comes to Chivalrous Kingdom's units. If that unit of knight horsemen gets taken out, there's not going to be much left over here to fight for that objective. But those questing knights, seeing that that is the plan, have decided to charge into those crazed boars. First thing for those questing knights is impact hits, hitting on a 2. 9 hits. With AP1, the crazed boars are knocked to a 6 up armor save, doing 7 wounds. Then the questing knights get to fight with their great weapons, hitting on a 4 for only 3 hits. But with Monster Hunter and the crazed boars being 3 toughness apiece, it would be AP4, but it doesn't matter because their armor save is only a 5 anyway, so saving on a 6. That's going to be just enough. Well, they did 9 wounds total, and with this here, they only needed to do 8. So, splat. Then they get their 3 inches of movement and end up there. Not wanting to throw away the opportunity, that ambushing squad is going to charge into those Grail Knights, ending up with all of them able to get in there and attack. So a total of 43 attacks, hitting on a 5. With a total of 14 attacks hitting. All those attacks are AP nothing, and the Grail Knights save on a 3. So 3 of the Grail Knights go down. So 3 of the Grail Knights drop, but then the rest of them are going to consolidate in, and everyone within 2 inches fights. That's everybody that's left. 7 Grail Knights, and the Realm Defender on the horse is in there with them. It's going to be 10 attacks overall, hitting on a 4. With 6 hits. Heavy Lances are AP1.
saving on a 6. And they're going to lose 5. So the Beastmen Hunters lose combat, time for a morale test. And they're going to fail, meaning that they are pinned. Going from this to this with that dreaded pinned marble. Time for the second unit of Questing Knights to activate. They're going to charge into that heavy chariot. Like that. Starting off with 10 impact hits on a 2. We got 10 hits. AP 1, saving on a 4. So the chariot takes 4 wounds just from the impacts. 10 attacks with their weapons on a 4. Oh, that's a lot better hitting this time. 6 hits. Their weapons become AP 4 with Monster Hunter, so saving on a 6. Saving 2, meaning that chariot has taken 8 so far. It is down to its last wound. It only has 1 left. Time for it to fight back. First, we have to check how crazy the crazed boar is. It's a 1, which means the attacks get rending. 3 attacks with heavy great weapon and 2 with tusks on a 3. 1 miss out of each of them. 1 rending hit on a 6. Oh, it saves. The AP 3 again on a 6. That's a fail. And then the AP 1 saving on a 5. Fail. So the chariot definitely lost combat. Time for a morale test. And it passes. So we lose 2 Questing Knights, and then everyone else has to back up an inch. Like so. The giant, looking at these knights in front of it, decides it wants to smash. First attack is the heavy pierce. And it does nothing. Then the rest of the giant's attacks hitting on a 3. 2 stomps and 4 hits from the great weapon. All the attacks push them to a save of a 6. And they're going to lose 4. That'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. Now they fight back. Being at a severe disadvantage when they don't charge, they don't have any impact hits, and their regular attacks only hit on a 5. 2 hits. Giant saves on a 3. It takes 1 wound, more than I was expecting. The Errant Knights definitely lost combat, quality of a 5 for their morale test. They're sticking around. So the giant is down to 11 and has to back up an inch. The unit of Pegasus, they are going to jump over that light chariot and ram into the Beastmen warriors. The Pegasus have 2 impact hits each, so it's going to be 8 attacks hitting on a 2. For 8 hits. Now those warriors normally armor save of a 4, AP 1 from Joust, saving on a 5. They're going to lose 7 right off the bat. Now the High Champion and the Pegasus Knights all have heavy lances, hitting on a 4. For 3 hits, saving on a 6. That's going to be 3 more down. Then they all have heavy hooves for 1 attack apiece, hitting on a 4. 2 hits, AP 1, saving on a 5. 2 more fails for a total of 12 Beastmen warriors cut down. So they go from this big pile to that many left to attack. We're going to start with the Beast Lord and his dual heavy hand weapons. 4 attacks on a 3. 2 hits. AP 1, the Pegasus Knights are going to be saving on a 5. They're going to take 2. Then the rest of the warriors with dual hand weapons, 2 attacks apiece, hitting on a 4. For 7 hits and saving on a 4. They take 3 more wounds for a total of 5. The Pegasus Knights soundly won that combat. Morale test for the warriors. 3 up. And they're going to fail. With them being below half the number of models they started with, they're going to take off running. So let's move some stuff around. Leading to that, the squad of warriors is gone. 1 Pegasus went down, and 1 is down to 1 wound remaining. Next to activate is going to be that light chariot sitting on the objective. It's going to pull a 90-degree turn and slam into those errant knights. First thing for the light chariot, we have 4 impact hits. For 4 hits, saving on a 5. We're going to have 1 knight left. Spear crew, 2 attacks with a lance. 1 hit, saving on a 6. And that'll do it. That'll be the end of this whole squad. The Grail Knights are going to activate. They're going to charge right back into that squad of hunters. Like that. We've got 7 Knights and the High Champion going in. They are all fatigued, so they're going to be hitting on a 6. For 2 hits. saving out of 6. They only kill 1. So knocking out 1, they are going to fight back. Time to attack back. 14 dudes and the champion. Everyone's hitting on a 6. For 7 hits. And then the knights save on a 3. Saving them all. The knights definitely won combat. The hunters are already pinned. They can't be pinned anymore. They automatically fail their morale test, but they didn't lose enough to run away. So nothing really happens. The brutes over in this corner, they're going to charge into those questing knights. First, they have to check their pierce attack. No, 2 attacks apiece at AP4, hitting on a 3. We got 4 hits, no furious this time. Saving on a 6. That's going to be 4 dead knights. So 4 knights go down, and then everyone else is going to consolidate over into combat. Like that. 6 attacks from the knights. They are fatigued, hitting on a 6. For 1 hit. AP4, saving on a 6. It fails. The brutes won combat, but the knights passed their morale test. So after all that, the wounded guy is taken out, and the last brute remaining moves back an inch. Next activation for the Chivalrous Knights. This unit of errant knights, they are going to try to squeeze through this gap and hit this chariot. Something like that. They are fatigued, so they don't get any impact hits, and they're going to hit on a 6. We got 1 hit at AP2. That puts that chariot at a 5 up to save. And it fails. That's all they needed to squeak through and take that last wound off. And then they do a little consolidating. Next up, the brute boss is going to take off towards those Grail Knights. Not quite making it to combat, but he's getting close. Next, we have this unit of peasants. They're going to swing around the outside. Now that they're there, they're going to start throwing some rocks at that chariot. First thing we're going to do is that Realm Defender, who is attached to the squad, is going to attempt to cast Leech using 2 magic points. And it goes off. So that's 1 hit at AP4, deadly 3, saving on a 6. It fails, so there's 3 wounds right there. Now 10 stones on a 6. 2 more, saving on a 4. It's going to take 1. So that takes it down to 2 wounds remaining. Time for a morale test. And it's going to fail, becoming pinned. Down to 2. It is pinned. And this goes from 4 to 2. All that's left from the Beastmen are the shooters. So our squad that's up there on the mountain, they are going to fire into that green squad of errant knights down there. 5 shots on a 5. 1 hit, saving on a 5. It fails. Morale test. The errant knights are going to be pinned. Slap. Blap. Unit of peasants on the central objective, they're going to move forward. And they're all going to throw some stones at that giant. 10 shots looking for a 6. Ooh, we got 3 of them. Giant saves on a 3. Oh, it takes 2 of them to the eyeball. Goes from 11, let's get rid of that gray dice, to a 9. These beast shooters here are going to fire into the Pegasus. 5 shots looking for 5s. We got 3 hits. Pegasus save on a 4. They're going to take 2, which takes them below half. Morale test. They're going to pass. So that takes out this one and puts that one on 2 wounds. The unit of peasants in the rock are going to move forward. They're going to throw some rocks and some magic at that last brute. Once again, using Leech with 2 points. It's going to go off, saving on a 6. And it fails. Don't even need to throw rocks. So he goes to 2, and this guy goes poof. Last activation of turn number 2. These raiders are going to move forward, put their toes on the objectives, and then they're going to shoot into those questing knights. 5 shots looking for 5s. 1 hit. Save. That's going to be a fail, but not enough to cause a morale test. Last casualty of the turn. Bloop. Combat on turn number 2 went a little crazy like it always does whenever you're playing Age of Fantasy. Everything crashed in the middle. Now, as we move on to turn 3, we're going to see if the Chivalrous Kingdoms can keep up the pressure or if the Beastmen can put some damage in some key areas. Because they finished first last turn, it's time for the Chivalrous Kingdoms to go first on turn number 3. The unit of Questing Knights, they're going to charge right into that giant. Let's see if they can bring it down. The Questing Knights start off with their impact hits. 7 out of 8 hit. AP 1, so the giant is going to save on a 4. Taking 5 wounds right there. Then they attack with their great weapons on a 4. Getting 3 hits. With Monster Hunter, those turn into AP 4. 2 more wounds, meaning the giant has taken 7. Now it's time for the giant to fight back with his heavy pierce. Doesn't go off. Stomp, hitting on a 3. 2 hits. AP 1, saving on a 5. 2 fail. Then 6 attacks with his great weapon, hitting on a 3. 3 hits, saving on a 6. Fail 3. So the Questing Knights did 7 wounds, taking him down to 2. The Questing Knights themselves took 5 wounds, leaving 3. Questing Knights did 2 more wounds to him, but the giant has fear of 2, meaning that the combat is tied and a push. Next activation will be the Brute Boss, charging into the Grail Knights. First, using his heavy pierce attack. Again, it doesn't go off. 6 attacks with his heavy great weapon, hitting on a 3 with Furious. So we got 4 hits there. That Furious puts an extra hit on there, so 5 hits total. Saving on a 6. We're going to lose 4 Grail Knights. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then the Grail Knights are going to consolidate in like that. 3 Knights in the High Champion fighting with heavy lances, hitting on a 4. 3 hits, saving on a 4. He's going to fail all 3, which means he's down to 3 wounds. Now the Brute Boss did 4 wounds. The Grail Knights only did 3 wounds, but they are carrying that banner that gives them fear of 3. So the Grail Knights won combat. Time for a morale test on the Brute Boss. And he is, oh, it's not even framed. And he is going to fail. Because those 3 wounds took him to half strength and he failed, he is going to take off running. The unit of peasants over here, they're going to move on to the objective. Like that. Then what we are going to do, the caster in that squad has 4 points now. He's going to attempt to cast Magic Wind on those Questing Knights. Putting all 4 points in, looking for a 3. And it's going to go off. So those knights get plus 6 inches next time they charge. And then the peasants are going to throw rocks at the raiders. 1 hit, saving on a 5. It saves! Beastmen turn, they are going to recover on their light chariot. Then the Chivalrous Kingdoms, that Questing Knight unit that is all buffed up, they are going to charge long bomb into that giant, getting all 5 of them in there. 5 impact hits on a 2. 4 hits, saving on a 4. They all save. 5 attacks on a 4. 2 hits, saving on a 6. That's going to do it. With only 2 wounds remaining, crash. He almost stuck in there the whole time. The 5 shooters on the mountain are again going to fire into those errant knights down on the ground. 5 shots on a 5. 2 hits, saving on a 5. 1 fail. 1 gone and they're already pinned. Can't get pinned any harder from shooting. The unit of Pegasi are going to charge all the way down into that squad there. 4 impact hits on a 2. 3 hits, saving on a 6. 2 gone. High Champion and the Pegasus Knight using their lances. 2 hits on a 6. 1 more gone. And then hooves. 1 hit, saving on a 6. Fail, so they've lost 4. The 1 remaining shooter gets an attack back on a 5. And fails. Morale test time. He's going to take off running. So they killed 4. And the one that was left has more sense than to stick around. This Beastmen squad here is going to fire at those peasants. 5 shots on a 5. Oh, 4 hits, saving on a 6. 3 dead peasants. So we lose 3, but they still have that buffer. They're not going anywhere. Next activation, that unit of peasants on the center objective are going to throw stones at the remaining large unit of hunters. 10 shots on a 6. Nothing. Beastmen activation, that unit is going to recover, and that is the last action for them this turn. All that's left is peasants. And Grail Knights. These guys over here, they didn't actually activate this turn, they just got charged into. They're going to charge into that squad that just got unpinned. Like that. No impacts because of fatigue and only hitting on a 6. 1 hit. Saving on a 6. Fail. So they lose 1 of the hunters. Now their attack's back. 9 and the leader are able to get in there, so hitting on a 5. Quite a bit. 7 hits, saving on a 3. They're going to lose 2. Now because of that fear banner, the Grail Knights still win combat, so morale test time for the hunters. They're going to fail and be pinned all over again. And we end up like that. Then over here, the last unit is going to be that peasant squad there. We're going to do some magic and some rock throwing. So at the chariot, once again, the caster is going to try to cast Leech, putting all 4 points into it. There's no point in holding on to any of it, so it's going to go off on a 2. And it does. Save of a 6 on the chariot. It fails. That chariot is gone. And then 10 rocks are getting thrown up there at the raiders on the mountain. For nothing. Bang. So at the end of turn number 3, the Beastmen are vastly reduced. Their only squad that's really combat viable is starting the turn off pinned. This is pretty much in the bag for the Chivalrous Kingdoms. Let's see how it ends. First thing to activate are the Beastmen. They are going to attack the peasants. 5 shots, looking for 5s. Nothing. We're going to let the Beastmen just play everything else. This squad up here, they're going to fire at those peasants. 5 shots, looking for 5s. 1 hit, saving on a 6. They kill 1 peasant. Bang. And then this squad over here is going to recover, and that is everything the Beastmen can do this turn. Let's have a little fun with the Chivalrous Knights. Let's go ahead and bring in everything we can onto that unit of hunters. There we go. Everything on horseback that was arranged to charge has charged. Impact hits. 8 hits out of 10. Saves on a 6. 1 save. There goes 7 of them. Blacks are the Grail Knights. Whites are everything else on a 4. 5 hits. Saving on a 6. They lose 4 more for a total of 11. So let's take out 11. Leaving us with that to fight back. We're going to go ahead and put it into the Questing Knights. Attacking out of 5. 2 hits. Saving on a 5. 2 fails. Splash, splash. So everything else is going to hold. And at the end of turn 4, it is 1, 2, 3 objectives for the Chivalrous Kingdoms and 1 contested for a Chivalrous Kingdoms victory. So after playing a game with them, what are my final thoughts on the Chivalrous Kingdom? Well, I am totally biased. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I love knights. I love shining armor. I love lances. I like cavalry charges. I like the smash of metal when 2 forces crunch together. But thinking objectively, the errant knights, maybe 3 of them is not the best play because countercharging on those, they pretty much melt away. The Pegasus definitely came in clutch, being the little firemen they are, bouncing around, putting out fires, and when they wiped out a whole 20 Beastmen squad of warriors, that was completely unexpected, but a very happy unexpected moment. As I sit right now in my mind, they are one of the higher tier armies in Age of Fantasy. But we're going to see what happens in 2 weeks when they go up against the next Age of Fantasy opponent. So that'll do it for me out here in the garage. I hope you guys are having a whole bunch of fun out there playing OPR wherever you are. And I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.